Hi, my name is Megan, and I will be presenting my film Regarding Henry. Regarding Henry is a film released in 1991. The IDMB summary says after being shot, a lawyer loses his memory and must relearn speech and mobility, but he has a loving family to support him. Essentially, the film is an hour 45 minutes, and it centers around Henry Turner, who was a stern lawyer who was very dedicated to his career, and he created strained relationships with his daughter and wife because of his dedication to his career. He was always in the office. He was very dedicated and would spend lots of time working on his cases, and he was very distant to his family. After being shot in a corner store, he endured extensive brain injuries that affected his cognitive capabilities. He had to relearn basic functions, and he had to rediscover who he really was after the shooting. Injury and localization of function. The bullet wound that hit Mr. Henry actually caused damage to the right frontal lobe, which is responsible for higher level thinking. This caused internal bleeding and cardiac arrest, and he suffered from anoxia. So anoxia is when the brain does not receive enough oxygen. And we know that when the brain doesn't receive enough oxygen, there are a lot of parts that can be severely injured, damaged, and a lot of problems arise from this lack of oxygen. His doctor had explained to his wife that rehab would take many months. His recovery process would be very long. He would have to learn how to speak, how to use his motor skills, learning how to walk again. The frontal lobe, as we know, is responsible for higher level thinking. Um, and so this brain damage really affected his memory, judgment, and language, all of which can stem from the frontal lobe. So here I drew a comparison between the film character Henry Turner and Phineas Gage, who we briefly studied. Phineas Gage is known for his brain injury from having a rod striking his skull, and it caused damage to his frontal lobe. It was said that Phineas Gage had a personality change, and it changed drastically after his accident. He actually was released from his work because of this. And similarly, in the movie, Mr. Henry's personality and mood drastically changed after his brain injury. Prior to his injury, he was cold and distant. He wouldn't really show affection to his wife. He didn't play a large role in his daughter's life, and he was always work, work, work. And after the accident, he did become more empathetic. He spent more time at home. He bonded with his family. And he also had a change of heart. He realized that in a lot of his older cases, he was taking advantage of people. And so he really started this journey of reconciling those problems that he had. So memory is a big problem in the film. Henry had a hard time remembering his daughter and wife, and his memories started to fail here. Um, there was a point in the movie where it was time for him to leave the hospital and go back home to his family. And he was very hesitant. He had a conversation with Bradley, his physical therapist, because he didn't want to go back home. He didn't recognize those people. He didn't feel like he belonged. And so this is related to our study of retrograde amnesia, where the patient forgets events before trauma. I included this slide, the role of therapists, because they played a huge role in Mr. Turner's recovery process. He had speech therapists that would work with him. Exercises would center around him having to pronounce letters and then slowly pronouncing words. They would have him pick shapes. They would display wooden shapes on his table, and he'd have to pick the right one. His physical therapist, Bradley, would also encourage him to speak and would even visit him after he left the hospital. So here's a clip of him trying to get Henry to talk.
What's wrong? Don't like my eggs? What? Okay. Okay, I heard you. Don't be pretending you can't talk. Listen, if you don't speak, I don't know what you want. All you gotta do is tell me anything you want. All you gotta do is make the call. This is like room service here, man. You ever been to a hotel? So what do you want? Cheeseburger? Huh? No, no, no. You like caviar and shit like that, right? Cool, man. Just tell me you want caviar. Come on, say caviar. Caviar. What? Come on, man. Say it.
Ritz.
Ritz. You want some crackers?
So advantages for using this film to study psychology. Of course, we have a visual representation of symptoms evident in Mr. Henry. We can also see the impact on family relations. We can see how someone's recovery process affects everyone in the family, and everyone has to learn how to adjust. We can also appreciate the medical field's insight on psychological problems. We can see the role of the therapist, speech therapist, physical therapist, Henry's doctor, and how he was able to explain to Henry's wife what was going on and to have hope that he does have a recovery process and that he would heal. We can understand how physical illness affects identity. Mr. Henry had a lot of problems remembering who he was, struggling to find himself again, struggling to fit in with his friends, to fit in with coworkers again. We can also observe what recovery from brain trauma looks like, and that was evident throughout the entire film. Learning and language. So this clip here demonstrates speech production, and Mr. Henry broke down the book title into several words, and he broke down the words into several letters. So he would start by sounding out the letters, then the words, until he could finally complete the book title. We could also see how his daughter reinforces this pronunciation and encourages him to continue.
Why? My.
Are you
my?
Okay, one more. This is the toughie.
Moat.
TH, remember.
Mold. Mother. Moth. Mother. Mother. Mother?
Mother. You did it!
Are you my mother?
Insight and problem solving. So Mr. Henry's identity did shift. He did regress to a childlike state. He relied on his family for basic functions. He had to learn to let go of his old habits, his old ways, his old attitude. He created new routines for himself. He was on this road to a new life. He amended relationships with his wife and daughter. He had to look back and realize that the way that he was living before wasn't the way that he wanted to live. He had ethical dilemmas, and he really worked through that towards the end of the film. And so we can see that this introspection is critical to psychology, because if we learn to appreciate our cognitive capabilities, then we can learn how to enrich our lives and lead the life that we want to. One particular problem he resolved was with a client. He had realized that he had ignored a client's testimony, some evidence, and he went up to this client and apologized, and he even quit his job as a lawyer because he didn't agree with the way that they were practicing and the way that things were going for him. So it was really nice to see that. So yeah, thank you.